These are the three main reasons that I do MAF training. How's it going, runners? My name is Justin Thompson. I'm your average running PT, and I help the average runner achieve their own personal elite status. If that's something you guys are into, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you know when the next video comes out. So I've got three main reasons that I've been drawn to MAF training. And these reasons are my reasons. They're not anybody else's reasons. I'm not saying they're reasons that you need to have for doing it, but I do think that they are very good reasons, especially for myself and for my own training history. And I'll kind of give a little bit of a background behind each of these reasons as to why it relates to my training history. So you've got to have a reason for why it is that you're doing what you're doing. I don't want you to just be following some blind plan and not know why you're actually doing it. So for me, I do MAF training for three reasons, and three primary reasons. There's a bunch of other benefits and all of that, but I'm going to go over my three top reasons for why MAF is the method that I am choosing to go with, at least my own variant of MAF training. Now, reason number one, and as a physical therapist, this is extremely important to me, is first, do no harm. And this is something that I learned my very first week of physical therapy school. The first thing they start teaching you when it comes to like the ethics of being a healthcare provider is do no harm. That's the first thing that you need to be thinking about. Yeah, we need to be thinking about trying to improve the health of somebody, but first of all, don't make them worse than where they already are. So for me, do no harm holds a lot of weight to me, and it's something that in my training in the past that I've not really followed, and I think that a lot of professional athletes, recreational athletes, elite and non-elite alike, they ignore this. They really do. They aim for performance, but at what cost? And so I want to talk about that for just a second. Now, no pain, no gain is something that we've all heard, and I think that it's become so prevalent that it's just the way that we think we should be training. And there comes a time when there's good pain with running and there's bad pain with running. And that's something that I can talk about in another video. But for a lot of us, we're pushing ourselves into levels of pain that we don't need to be doing, especially on such a frequent basis. And this is one reason that I'm not a big fan of doing like HIIT training on a bunch of days a week, or I feel like the CrossFit culture kind of moves in that direction. I'm not saying that CrossFit workouts are bad, but much of the culture is push yourself 100% every single day. And to me, that's doing harm to the body. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to argue against that. And if you have an argument against that, then definitely put that in the comments below. But I do think that the mentality of the recreational athlete and the professional athlete alike should never be to push yourself to 100% every single day. I mean, how many times have we seen an athlete with a ton of talent and a ton of work ethic? Like, their work ethic is so high, and they've got everything that's just set them up for success, and they burn out. Whether they burn out mentally or they burn out physically, their body just rejects the training that they want to put in because it's just harming their body. I mean, you get these athletes that have constant tendon problems or runner's knee or Achilles tendon issues or or chronic fatigue, or some sort of autoimmune problem that pops up because their body just can't deal with the stress of all the hard training. Or maybe they just mentally can't do it anymore. They've pushed their brain to the edge on so many occasions that it's just done. It's just tired. And I know what you're thinking. This is me sounding weak. This is not the culture of our country, of the world. Everybody should be going hard all the time, but that's what leads to burnout, whether physically or mentally or emotionally, or things happen in people's family or whatever. First thing should always be do no harm. Now I know we were going a little deep in there, so I'm going to bring it back now for my second reason that I do MAF training. And the second reason that I do MAF training is because I've been a competitive athlete all my life. I've spent a lot of time doing no pain, no gain, and I'm kind of tired with that aspect of it. But my second reason is because I've got speed, so I'm just gonna start working on a completely different energy system that I've never worked on before. So what do I mean by this? So I've played sports all of my life. I've played soccer, baseball, basketball, football. I've done all the things, and all of these require some level of speed if you're going to do them at a competitive level. And I've always had that speed to keep up in those sports at a pretty high level. So, I don't think that I need to work as much on those particular types of speed workouts or that type of energy system, because I have a lot of those kind of faster twitch fibers. Now, I've never been a sprinter per se. I wouldn't say that I'm going to jump out there in a 100 or 200 meters and start hanging with the big boys. No way, not at all. But I can remember back in 7th grade when I first ran track. I ran track in 7th and 8th grade. And when I first started, I know that I was drawn to the 400, 800, 1600 meters. So anywhere between a quarter mile and a mile, those were kind of my events that I really enjoyed and felt like I was best at. So the thing about all those events is they all require a good amount of speed. And so obviously the 400 meters, that's almost all out around the track for a quarter mile. 800 meters, that's one of the most painful events I've ever run. And, I definitely had no pain, no gain kind of mentality at that time. But I was always drawn to that, and I knew that because I had some level of speed and a little bit of endurance. Now the mile, that one was always a little bit more challenging, but I enjoyed it because of the prestige of the mile, I guess. But I loved these events that required a little bit more speed than endurance. Now, of course, at the end of a 800 meters or at the end of a mile, I was done because I just didn't have the endurance. I could not keep up with the big boys for the longest, for that entire race. So I would always fade at the end. Same thing when I was in high school running cross country. I would make it 2 miles, and then my last mile would be like a minute slower than the first 2. So, it's just, I know that for me, I have plenty of speed to carry me the times that I want to do, but I just don't have the endurance. So MAF training is helping me to achieve that endurance by training a completely different energy system than what I'm used to. And it's actually forcing me to slow down and enjoy the run rather than, trying to aim for some specific time or something like that. I've always been shooting for that time, and the problem is practice is not the place where you need to perform. Now, everybody says practice the way that you want to perform. And I think that that's true, but not every day. And slowing down has really allowed the fitness to come to me rather than me feeling like I'm having to chase it down. Always chasing after certain times or certain paces or things like that. I always felt like I was trying to grasp something way before I was able. And it reflected in a lot of my races in high school because I was always chasing after these times during interval workouts or long runs. And I was like, all right, I did this, and I would push myself to the point where I just hated myself on those runs. And then in my actual performances, I would suffer. So it wasn't worth it for me to do that. I know that now. I didn't know it then. So again, reason number 2 is I have the speed, I just don't have the endurance, so I'm trying to build that up. Now my third reason that I do MAF is that burnout has almost become a non-issue. I was always on the verge of burnout if I didn't actually burn out myself. So when I was in high school, I know that from season to season, I would get to the end of a season and I'd be like, all right, I'm done with this sport. I'm ready to move on to the next one. And that's not where you want to be at the end of a season when you're in your most important races. So I know that when I was in high school, we would get ready for like the district meet or something like that. And I'd just be like, yeah, I'm ready to move on to soccer season, because soccer season was after cross-country season in where I lived. And I was ready to move on to the next thing. And then whenever I got to soccer season at the end of the year, even though we were chasing down state championships, I was always like, all right, I'm ready to get through the end of this season. And that's not where you want to be. You want to be excited for your main races or your main events that you are training for at the end of a training block. And I always felt like I was burning out. Either my body was getting tired or my brain was just like checked out and I was done. With MAF training, not the case at all. I have not once felt like I was going to burn out. Why? Because, well, I'm running so darn slow that I just want to do more. So literally at the end of each run, I am telling myself, wow, I feel like I barely got a workout. I feel like I could go run another 2 miles. And that's where I want to be. That's where you want to be. You want to feel like at the end of a workout or at the end of a run, at the end of an easy run especially, that you could do way more. You never want to get to the end of an easy run and feel like you left it all out on the road. And that's what I did whenever I was younger. I always felt like I had to leave it all out there, even in practice, even in training. That's not what you want to be doing to your body day in and day out, especially when the next day you have to go and do an actual workout where you do want to leave most of it out on the track, out on the road, or whatever. And also, when you do that every single day, you put yourself at risk for injury. Your body has to try and keep up with what you're putting it through, and if you do not allow it the right amount of time or give it the right nutrition in order to recover, then it's not going to. And you're just going to continue to make it decline until eventually it just breaks and you cannot run at all. And burnout's a real thing. It happens to a lot of people. And I've been on the verge of it a bunch of times. It's happened to me before to where I'm like done. I don't want to run anymore. Right now, I'm excited to go run all the time because I don't feel like I'm hurting myself. I'm not doing harm to myself. I'm improving an energy system that I've never done before. And I don't feel like I want to quit. And that's the main thing. Don't hurt yourself. Work on what needs to be worked on and make sure that you continue to enjoy what it is that you're doing. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I know that this to me it's important to kind of put this down and get it out for me because I think a lot of you spend a lot of time pushing yourselves right up to the edge. And one thing is, we're not elite athletes necessarily, so we don't need to ride that fine line between high fitness and poor health. And that's what I want to make sure that we're doing. Now, I think that professional athletes can also benefit from a lot of the stuff that MAF training has to offer. Now, obviously, they are still going to be at a completely different level, running many more miles, running at much faster paces, but I think that there's still things that elite athletes can do to avoid burnout, avoid injuries, work on their specific things that they need to work on as elite athletes, and still do no harm to their body, even though they're training at a really high level. So that's all for today, guys. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, leave a comment down below. If you didn't, leave a comment down below. So head on out there, seek your elite. God bless, and I'll see you next time.